Welcome to the Live Loving live stream with John Davis. Well, there you go. Thank God I'm not muted anymore. Can you hear me now? Well, anyway, welcome to the Live Loving live stream, my good friend. I hope you, good friends, you're doing well. What a great way to start a live stream. As you can tell, I'm dealing with technical stuff tonight, so I obviously started off with a weird technical glitch. How about, what do you think of all this stuff around the outer edges and the intros and all that stuff? Let me know what you think of that. Also, tell me what you guys think of the. Actually, why don't you guys tell me where you are in the world? I'm coming from Akron, Ohio. Where are you guys currently? I'd love to hear that. And I'll be diving into your questions as we get going. I see Joe has already stuck one in there that I can start with, so I will jump on that. Is that New Jersey? What part of New Jersey? I was originally from Delaware, so we used to have the Cape May Lewis ferry to go over to New Jersey, the southern tip. Western Washington, Grand Rapids, Michigan, Illinois, beautiful. Columbus, oh, Bobo Natalia's here. There you go. Linden, near the airport. Nice. Excellent. Arizona's in the house. Connecticut. Detroit, you're close. You're only a couple hours from me. Not far at all. Well, it's lovely to see so many of you from all over the place, and I'm happy to be here with you guys this evening. Let's go ahead and I'm going to jump in and jump right over to Joe's question. Before I lose that down the chat line here. Question, Joe. Joe, you said, do you have any thoughts on what happened to Jeshua's body in the tomb? It's a great question. I have really only one memory of the tomb itself, and basically it's a memory of carrying him to the tomb. It was three of us, and I had his lower half. I had his legs, and I have the memory of carrying him to the tomb. I don't have anything about getting to the tomb or laying him in the tomb. And then the next memory I have of Jeshua was seeing him on the beach in Galilee afterwards. A fairly decent amount of time afterwards too. I don't know whether it was weeks or months but it was definitely. I was shocked to see him because I fell on my face. Well, it's happy to see your smiling face as well, Justine. I am in Akron, Ohio. If that's far, I don't think you're in Detroit. I think you said so. That's not far away. So not bad. Glasgow. Oh, nice. I have Scottish roots myself. Right. When you look at my genealogy, I am English, Irish, Scottish, and Welsh. So basically, I'm from there. But back to this back to the question here. My memory of carrying him to the tomb it's a very interesting thing. It was a very visceral memory. It was we were carrying, you're carrying quote unquote dead weight, but it was so much heavier than you would think. It was just like carrying with such depression and such angst of that moment. And just you have no wind in you, and yet you're carrying someone that you loved so much. And it was a very, very hard moment. And it was rough. Hi, Corey. How are you? Corey, one of my members in the membership group. We have so much fun in there, don't we, Corey? And Bob, you too. You're also one of the members as well. basically, if you guys don't know about the membership group, is we meet once or twice a week, depending on what's going on in the world. Usually a Wednesday and Sunday, and it's all done Zoom with the gallery open, so everyone can talk on the mic. We all talk to each other, and it's open. What's so beautiful about the group is that we have all different people from all different thoughts. We have some people who believe. We have one lady who came originally as an atheist, and we have one who, we have ex-Mormons. We have one who's very much into the law of one material, but it's such an open and free group. We never ever judge one another. We always end our sessions with telling each other how much we love each other, and it's just a lovely, fun. We laugh every session. It's pretty fun and pretty wonderful. It's one of my favorite times of the week. And if you want more information about that, you can just go to johnofnew.com and click on the membership link. You can find out all about it. You mentioned Yeshua being funny and hilarious. Do you remember how he personally made you and others laugh? What? It's funny. Jokes, pranks. I love this question. It's a very, I made a large portion of my life this time around doing a comedy show. I did a comedy show called Hack and Slash, and the kind of comedy that you got from Jeshua was the kind of comedy you'd get when you're hanging out with your friends and you're just kind of ribbing each other. So it wasn't, oh, thank you, Just Gene, that's so beautiful, thank you so much. It wasn't like the set formulaic jokes that you were things, but he would definitely just mess with you. And some of the moments that I remember laughing was, and this is going to sound kind of strange, but I would say something and he would just give you a look like, really? And it would make you laugh because you realize what you had said, or he would catch you on those moments where you were creating something that you didn't want to really create or something like that. He would just get you laughing. And he would poke little kids, and he would he would mess with their ears with grass and stuff. Those kind of fun jokey sort of things with people. That was the way he was, and he was so good about just always being lighthearted. When he got mad or frustrated or angry, it was such an anomaly that it stood out. It was like, oh my gosh, Joshua was mad, Joshua was angry, because he was always so funny. He was always so laughy, and that was so beautiful to have that kind of person around you all the time. And if you think about it from the idea of what is laughter, laughter is joyful exhalation. So and when you fully exhale, your body isn't storing fear, because all fear comes with holding air in the body so that you have enough air to run away. And so when you fully exhale and you release all the air, you have that moment of fearlessness. And what he was doing was he'd get you to laugh, he'd get you to smile, he'd get you to joke, and you would get that feeling. And because he made you do it a lot, you got that feeling around him a lot. And it was just this beautiful sensation of having this joyful, fearless experience around him, just through laughter and joy. Did that answer your question there? I hope it did. I definitely hope it did. My memories of Joshua are it's an interesting thing. It's a very personal thing, but I want to kind of express. Oh, good. I'm glad I answered the question. I wanted to kind of express that you notice my YouTube channel. I don't talk about him as much as I probably could. And the reason I don't on the channel so much is because when I came out with this information 20 years ago, no one could see past the reincarnation story. They weren't hearing what the teachings were. And so I left. And now I really feel there's a shift in humanity right now where people are stepping into their greater divinity and stepping out and really discovering that they can connect directly and they don't need a middleman. And what's so wonderful about me seeing this now is it's one of the reasons I came back to the works, because I was seeing it happen. So now I really think it's important to just get as much direct, how do you step into your divinity and step into your power. Joshua said, greater works than I've done you will do. And it's all about you stepping into the power. There's the quote before the crucifixion where he says, I am going, but fear not, I will send the Holy Spirit to descend upon you, basically what the line is. But when you look at that moment, what he's saying is, stop deifying me and take the Holy Spirit upon yourself, because the Holy Spirit is you. It is your higher self-consciousness. It is you. The Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Father is the God consciousness. The Son is the physical world consciousness. And the Holy Spirit, or soul, is the place in between that's blended between the physical and the divine, and understands its divinity and understands its complete wholeness in the oneness. And that's what Jeshua, where he was. He was accessing from that place. And he was leaving for several reasons. One, because if he left, then there would be nobody, there would be no leader to kill after he left, right? So he spread the information all over the world. But on a bigger thing, what he did was he left because he didn't want to be deified. He wanted people to step into their own power and come out and realize. He said, "Take heart, I have overcome the world." He wasn't saying that for you to look at him and say, "Oh, we have to be, pray to him." He was saying that to say, "Look, take heart," meaning get excited, because this is what I'm doing. I'm doing this, and you can too. And that to me is the biggest thing. You remember your. Have I had any memories of other lives or any other incarnations? I've had. It's a great question, and when I went to Petra, Jordan, because I did a whole tour over there. Me and one other guy did a trip all through the area, and it was a strange experience. When I got to Petra, Jordan, I walked down that. They use Petra for the place where Indiana Jones finds the Holy Grail in his Indiana Jones: The Last Crusade. And that building that they find it in is a building called the Armory in Petra. And that long tunnel, that long chasm that you walk down to get to it, that's how you get to it. So I'm walking down and I get to that place, and I walk out of the opening to where the building is. And I see the building, and I'm like, wow, that's cool. But I had this flash memory of actually looking down from the top of one of the pillars, tied to it, carving it. So this is just a moment that I had. That's the only other real past life memory I have, and I think it was a past life memory. But I have had other experiences where I did Renaissance festivals for years, and I have always had an inclination towards Elizabethan, but I always did King Henry VIII fairs, which is older. Entirely different style of clothing. I've always had an inclination towards Elizabethan style clothing. And when they gave me a sword and I put a sword in my hand, it was so natural for me to use that sword. I had two top fight directors say to me, "John, you're a natural." They actually said, "You have such natural talent as an actor and a combatant," and they ended up giving me all their training for free because I was just a natural at it. And I really feel like I might have had a life in that time, but I have no memories of that at all. As far as the life of John, after my first regression, there's a certain percentage of people who get regressed who have continual spontaneous memories. And I was one of the ones who, like, somebody will ask a question, and the last time this happened was somebody asked me what Mary Magdalene looked like. Now, I have memories of walking with them and seeing them, but when they asked the question, I had a completely new memory, and it was in a room and with her clearing a table, but it was a completely new, very visceral memory. And so every so often, I'll still get a full-blown, full sensory awareness memory. It kind of got shut off for about 10 years when I left doing spiritual work and went into the corporate world. But coming back to it, it's all flooded back like very quickly. Merry Christmas to you too. Yeah, I agree. I agree that people are shifting like crazy, and it's amazing to see all my private sessions with people. All the sessions are all about them coming to their present moment and being very empowered to be the creator. And I see that in a lot of them, and it really comes to the place where where they themselves are bypassing the need for a messiah or a deity or a spirit guide. Even they're coming to the place where they themselves are having the direct connection, and I think it's absolutely beautiful. Yeah, what you say there about Krishnamurti being a piece of Joshua. Somebody asked me a question recently about what's my relationship with Joshua and his mother today, and it's a very strange response I had to give because people think I'm like, well, hey Joshua, what do you think? And I'm talking to Joshua, or I say, hey Mary, what do you think? Or I'm having these direct connections that way. Over the course of many years, I have become very comfortable in the understanding that I'm one with all of them. And when I think of them, or I have I have a communion with them, but it's a communion within the oneness itself. So it's kind of a strange experience for me because it's not really strange. It's actually really comfortable for me because it's like I know I'm never alone, and I know they're always with me, as I know my mom from this life is always with me. She's crossed over now. I know that they're always with me. So it's not like I have that I'm still chatting with them conversation. I just sort of feel them, and I experience them, and I kind of get their thoughts and they get my thoughts. And I hope that explains that answer as well. But as far as the Krishnamurti thing, I don't know whether or not whether the soul fragments that way, because I think the consciousness of God has many different individual consciousness within it, but I think the soul itself is just our higher self and just our Holy Spirit. And in being that, in Hinduism they call the consciousness of God the Sit, and we are the Sit Sat Ki, the individual consciousness within God. And we're never separate, we're never apart. And so it's the concept of splitting souls. I don't know of any ancient text that talks about that. That is a New Age precept, yes, but I don't. It doesn't feel right to me. But that's just me. Never take anything I say as trying to tell you what to think, because everyone must follow their own truth, and spirituality is a personal journey, like my mom said. Do I have memories of writing the letter when you were on the island of Patmos? And the letter, of course, being Revelations, right? It's interesting. I don't have memories of writing anything. I do have memories of dictating things to people, and telling people somebody else to write. And as far as the Patmos letter, or Revelations as it's now called, I remember very specifically having to code that letter, per se, code that message, so that the guy who was writing it down would not be arrested or killed if he was caught with it. So that was kind of the gist of that whole letter, and yeah, it was. So the memories I really have are less me with a pen in my hand and me more telling someone what to write. Hello from Arizona. We have a couple Arizonans in the house tonight. Say, well, I'm glad you're liking the live streams. What do you guys think? Should we do more of these live streams? I I used to do them on a weekly basis, and it just got to the point where I was really liking my Sundays off. But I took the summer off, and I just never started again. But if you enjoy them, maybe we'll continue doing them maybe we'll do them on the the opposite weeks that Kim does her Thursday night lives. Maybe that'd be a good idea. That'd be fun. That'd be fun. So what other questions do we have? I would love to answer some more for you, or at least dive into some interesting topics for the fun of it. Balance is important. Yes, it is. And everyone remember this. In your personal life, no is a complete sentence. No is a complete sentence. You don't have to justify why you're saying no. Just say no. Was Mary Magdalene a redhead? Actually, no. She had a very long and very, very curly, like ringlet hair. And if you've ever seen the Time magazine cover of the little Afghan girl years ago, she had the very hazily green eyes. Mary Magdalene had eyes very similar to that, very hazily green. And I am, and I say this, I have it sketched out, but I am going to do a painting of the two of them together and happy, because the people who have look at the painting I did of Jeshua from before, the two of them, everybody was like, he looks so sad. He looks so sad. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want. I want to do a painting where the two of them are joyful and smiling. Thomas Troward, thoughts? My thoughts are I don't know who that is. So, so you can enlighten me. And let me grab my pen here and I'll write that down to look at later. Thomas Troward. Is he on YouTube or who is this person? Bobo? Hello from Texas and Seattle. Good to see you live streaming again. Well, it's good to be live streaming again. I'm debating about doing it once a week again now that I'm only doing one video a day, which, by the way, has been just lovely. I feel so much less stressed when I don't have to put out two videos a day. Eureka Springs, Arkansas. Hello. So what other questions do we have, folks? Early 20th century new thought. Oh, early 20th century new thought. Okay. I'm going to write him down. Early 20th century new thought. Writing that down so I remember to dive into that. What's new, John? Larry's in the house. All kinds of things are new. I'm honoring myself and reducing the videos, but probably going to start doing one live stream a week, probably, and or every other week. I think every other week might be the key to do. If I can talk to Kim, I don't want to ever go over her, but I like Thursday nights for the live stream because Fridays for me are usually very busy. So I was thinking possibly every other week, which she does Thursday night lives, and I could do Thursday the off week, but I don't want to go over top of her. Do you have public meetings in Akron? I don't have public meetings in Akron, and eventually I do plan on having public meetings, and but it's got to be something that makes it still able for me to have a roof over my head. So, but this is something I've been thinking about. You guys let me know what you think about this. I was thinking about saying if you guys want to create an event in your area and you'd like me to come speak, because that's, live and in person is usually best, and you can get a group of people together who can cover all my costs to come. And while I'm there, I can do private in-person sessions to make a little bit of money to cover my time. I would be well open to that if you're interested in that, but you guys would have to be the ones who are setting it up because I don't know your area or your people or your networks in those areas. So if you're interested in something like that, you can email me. If you're interested in that, just email me at john@johnofnew.com or use the contact form on johnofnew.com, and we'll try to figure it out. Do our beloved pets who pass on have a life review? I don't know if they have a life review, but I can tell you this: I have had my dog visit me, and it's always a strange experience because it usually happens in dream form, but a very real dream. And it's like I'm visiting someone's home, and I get there, and I'm shocked because my dog is there. I say, "You're still alive? Oh my God! Why do you have him?" And I'm like, I'm taking him home with me, right? But it's he runs over, he licks me on the face. He was a 110-pound Rottweiler and the biggest lapdog in the world. His name was Odin. But so I truly believe that moment is him coming by and saying hi, him being folded back into the oneness as well. And so do they have a life review? I don't know, but I do know that he. Oh, I do believe that he definitely comes and visits me. So possibly open up and ask about the oneness, true nature of the soul. That's interesting. Oneness. I'm going to write that down. Nature, soul. Open up and ask. Okay. In the Bible, Jeshua says, "The Father and I are one." And he says, "Ye are gods, and ye are the children of God." Whenever you hear him talking about children, he's talking about being an offspring or being one with. And the one that tells you the clearness of the oneness, he says, "The Father and I are one." And everything else you hear him say is all about how he is no better than you. And if he and the Father are one, then you and the Father are one. And to me, that oneness is so important because the first big spiritual experience I had, conscious experience, I was told later on in life about all these experiences I had as a kid that I didn't remember, but I had what some people call a Kundalini rising or a Kundalini awakening, and in that moment you feel the oneness of everything, and I don't mean just people, but everything, the image, the illusion, everything is one, and you have that experience. And in my regression, when he touched me on my heart, you hear me on the regression moaning. I'm just like, and I actually I edited it out about 5 minutes of me moaning because it got a little weird. But the regressionist got confused. She says, "Are you with him or are you him?" And my response was, "I'm within him." And I talked about the oneness and everything being one in the regression as well. John on the road. Becky, I actually 20 years ago, I spoke at the ARE in Virginia Beach, and I spoke at the ARE in Houston and the ARE in Portland, Oregon. They have groups. Houston has an actual center. Portland, Oregon was held at a man's house, and they were wonderful to me. And they were like, "Well, we don't say, we don't know whether you were John or not." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't claim to understand where these memories come from, whether I'm reincarnated as John or whether I'm just tapping into the oneness of God and I have a predilection for that memory." So I don't claim it. And they very much respected that I wasn't claiming that because Edgar Casey said John the Beloved would return and again be named John, and I wasn't claiming that. And I said, I'm not in any way, shape, or form saying that because I don't know what he was seeing or hearing, and I don't necessarily truly understand what reincarnation is. So I wouldn't claim something that I was unsure about. So let's talk about it. She said, I agree with the love that's that souls are greeted by their guides and with love. Why do souls get trapped or haunt? I've heard others state they did not cross. How is that possible? Well, far be it from me to say I understand what happens, everything on the other side. I have crossed over a couple of times, but most people forget that when someone has a near-death experience, the first word is near. If they had fully died, they wouldn't be here. So that near-death experience means that they were going through it. Now, when you look at the studies of near-death experience, especially, you discover it's a transition, because they'll go into a near-death experience with their belief system, and their belief system will play out. And then what will happen is they will then transition, and send. Many of them come back saying, I felt a love I've never felt before, and many will leave their religion, many will do that, but many will also come back and get deeper into their religion because of their faith. Now, I believe fully that people crossing over who are so deeply devout into some religion or something that is fearful can get very much trapped in their fears and either slow down the crossing over to the point of lasting for what might feel like an eternity. I don't think you fully get trapped in between. I don't believe that. I do believe that people can not want to leave and get stuck in the middle and not fully understand, but I don't think that they stay there for long, because I don't think it's possible to stay there for long because of the transition process. I think that people who are lost in fear take longer to cross, because once they do cross, there is no time. So it's the physical world beliefs and systems that they're not letting go of, rather than the experiencing the other side. But eventually you have to let go, because, in my opinion, because it's going to wear it down, because positive always outweighs negative, and the negative states that they're experiencing are the things that are anchoring them. But eventually they will feel and they will cross. It just for some, it just may take time. Are our true authentic selves absence of all doubts and fears? That's where we all truly come from, right? Yes, and our true authentic self is our Holy Spirit, is our higher self, is our soul. And that is our awareness of our divinity without fear or anxiety, but still awareness of our individuality. That's my belief. Joe, it all depends on what you mean by whole. So will we be made whole when we cross over? I've decided that I don't want to be my snarky earthly self. So in that, although I have to tell you, Joe, I enjoy a snarky sense of humor, but you don't have to be anything you don't want to be. The question is, where does the snark come from? Is the snark's root origin in things that have happened in your life, and your doubt about things happening the way you'd like them to, or your feeling of inability to change things? Is that where your snark is coming from? Because if that's where your snark is coming from, then that's what you need to address, because that's all subconscious belief, and that subconscious belief is the thing that needs to be cleansed, and you can cleanse that here and now. You don't have to wait to be whole on the other side. Right here and now, you can catch yourself being snarky and going, oh no, I'm not doing that. I am doing this, and start changing, because the only thing you can change in your life can only be changed in your present moment. It's the only moment you have of creation. In one of the sessions I did today with a guy, the final line of his channel writing I did for him was, you are the pinpoint of manifestation, but you have to be where the pin meets creation. You have to be at that moment, which is the present moment. And you have to choose at the present moment to say, no, I'm not doing that. Now, what that does is that tells your subconscious mind to change that thought. And when you change that thought, you start to have different experiences. And then, of course, the more different experiences you have that are positive or that are, counter to that snarkiness, you're going to start to build trust in that. And what happens? Trust is developed by results over time. So you're going to start to have more and more of these positive things, and the more of these positive things you have are going to drop into your subconscious mind as new subconscious belief, and that's going to change everything. Well, thank you very much, Rebecca. That is very, very kind of you. It truly does help help keep the channel online. I have no other income but the John of New channel and the readings that I do, and so if it's something that is in your need, I totally appreciate it. Thank you. Do I have any pre-birth memories? I do not have any pre-birth memories, and I've had that question before as well. I've heard of people who do, and actually the one actress, what's her name? She was on Taxi. I forget her name. She actually remembers being born, and it's really interesting to hear her talk about that. I forget. She played Elaine, but I forget her name. But she was beautiful. Hello, Patty. How are you? Mary Lou Henner. Yes, Mary Lou Henner. That's the one. She was absolutely the one who remembers being born. Fascinating story. Did the answer help, Rebecca? That's the question I had for you. Well, that's a great question, Patty. Why do we have to come here to learn instead of just like hanging out in the light and chilling and being happy? I want you to think about this. I'm hanging out in the light. I'm hanging out in the light. Hanging out in the light. Hanging out in the light. Over the course of time, you'll forget the experience of the light because you haven't anything to measure against it. You haven't anything to show you what the light really feels like or experiences. You need to have your illusion of the lack of love, the lack of the light, so that you can know what the light is. And that's why we come here. That's why we come to this place, is to have that experience. And when we cross back over, and you can see this in all the near-death experiencers, they cross back over, they experience the lack of love from all different angles, from their angle and from the angle of from the person that they were interacting with. So they're feeling and experiencing various degrees of the lack of love. And then they go back over and they have this full awareness. So that's really interesting. So thank you, Duran, for that super chat there. Joshua did believe in being from other worlds. Are you saying that as a question, or are you saying that as a statement? I have no memories of him talking about being from other worlds. So I don't know of that in the Bible itself, or any other Gnostic text that I've read. But so I'm just curious whether that is a belief of yours, or whether you have some context for that statement, or if it is a statement, or whether you're asking that question. Any experiences of angels? Oh wow! Okay, now you're gonna get me in a into a topic here. I've got multiple stories to tell you on this front. So the first time I went to see Nick Bunick, who was had a book written about him called The Messengers. He remembered the life of the Apostle Paul, which many of you heard me talk about Paul before, but not Nick, but Paul. You've heard me talk about. But I was sitting in the audience and I was looking at him on stage talking, and I swore I could see an aura standing beside him, and something walking around behind him on stage, and he informed me that was an angel who follows him around. So that was my first experience experiencing it that way. The next experience I had was actually I was doing a private session where I was facilitating a healing. And in the middle of the session, I saw an aura next to the woman, a big shining light aura. And suddenly I started channeling, and I started channeling, for lack of a better word, Gabriel, but I called him Gabriel. And he spoke with a different accent and a different physicality. And I ended up doing channeling of that for a year. But it was really interesting is over the course of the year, the personality of Gabriel went away. And I started having experiences where I was informed that the reason I had a Gabriel or a Gabriel in the picture is because I myself, as John, did not feel worthy of bringing information through like that. So I needed a separate personality or entity to put faith in. I'd put faith that I could get information through that entity, through that angel. So it was really a part of the oneness that was communicating through me, and that I put this filter of Gabriel in between. And about 3 months into doing those channelings, he stopped referring to me in third person, and it started started saying John I, and they asked why are you saying John I, and he said John didn't feel worthy, and he needed a personality to put faith in. Basically, told us that information. After 6 months, Gabriel stopped coming, and it was just my voice talking. Now, if any of you watch Abraham Hicks, you go back to her earliest videos, she spoke with an accent and different cadence of speech and everything else, and now she speaks as Esther. So I think she's become very much in tune, and now is speaking from the oneness, but she's marketed as Abraham, so she has to keep it as Abraham. But I think she herself is more in tune with bringing through oneness. Through her filter, and no matter who's channeling, it's coming through the channel's filter. Now, in a physical world experience, I've had people show up in my life who knew a lot about me spiritually, and ended up having conversations to keep me on my path. To the one story I told before was I was at a real estate conference, and this man walks up to me with a big handlebar mustache. Actually, he was across the room from me, but we had a break, and I went to the restroom. When I came out of the restroom, he was standing there. He says, "So what have you learned, John?" And I had never given him my name. We'd never spoken until that moment. I said, "Well, I think I could probably use some of this information." He says, "I'm not talking about the real estate stuff. What have you learned on your path, John?" And he and I skipped the rest of the entire conference, and he basically gave me guidance. Now, the other day I did a video called The Griffin, the angel in cargo shorts. And basically, this guy showed up to tell me to park somewhere else so a tree wouldn't fall on me that night when the tornado came through. And I had a guy come up to me in Germany, same thing. I was doing a USO show, and we just knew each other. And he ended up giving me all kinds of information. So I believe there are people who are more aware, who are just absolutely, help pushing us and guiding us along our path. And that's kind of my belief in the whole thing. So let me move on to the next. That's my thoughts on angels, by the way. Let me go on to my next one. I'm new to your videos. I maybe talked about this, but what do I think of the Course in Miracles? I think the Course in Miracles has wonderful information in it. And I did do a video on this. I think it has wonderful information in it. I think it's very much filtered through the person who channeled it. I think that it's interesting in regard that the information is very good. I don't think it is pure in the way Jeshua would have taught it, because Jeshua's whole thing was simplicity. It was about being very simple. And I don't think he would have been into a year-long course. I just don't think it's the way he would have taught it. But I think it's good. I think it's great. And I know a lot of people who get a lot of great stuff out of it. So it does, and it does not give me any past life memories when I went through it. I didn't get do the whole year because it just was too much for me. Pretty long hair and see-through. I see that, Patty. Nice. Between people questions, do you have any thoughts? You know, a silent mind, or are you just waiting for questions? You mean on this live stream? I tend to like that. When I do live streams, I tend to make it about your questions because I can sit here and I can talk. I'm a talker. It's what I do, right? So I can sit here and I can talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. But if the live streams are designed specifically so I can talk about what you want to hear, so I'm all about leaning into your beliefs. And I don't want to start throwing another thought out there of my own because that's not what this is about. My thoughts of my own are on those videos, and so that's my thought on that. Notice you're closing in on 5,000 subscribers. Overall, do you feel your thoughts and beliefs are resonating with more folks? I've been watching for months and appreciate. Well, let me tell you something, Larry. The most joyful thing I hear, and I hear it every day, is this is what I've always thought, and I haven't heard anybody ever say it. Thank you for making this video, John. I get those messages every day. People know their truth and they experience their truth and they come to the channel and they hear something that rings true to them. And so to me, it was very much it's a validation for me when I hear somebody say, I know this too. I believe this forever. I've said that for a long time. You know, that to me is so empowering for me because it makes me realize that it's not just my truth, but there are other people who think the way I do as well. So I think it's absolutely beautiful. Your thoughts on Jeshua and real healing ministry was actually him awakening people to their own divine power and abilities. That's exactly what it was. You know, he said, it is your faith that heals you, right? But he also understood that sometimes he himself had to have people believe in him to be healed, and people had to believe in rubbing mud on the eyes for that guy to heal. But sometimes the healing themselves was to number one, heal the person, but number two, to have the references to talk about. So like the mud on the eyes thing, I've talked about that many times. That man needed something tactile to put his hands on because he was blind. And so having the mud was like, oh, the mud is healing him, so he could put the faith in the mud. And that was it. Thank you guys for the super chats. Was it Zankoya? I hope I said that right. And Duran and Danielle, thank you so much. Thank you so much. This keeps this channel going. Did you? Let me just go back so I don't miss anything. I want to make sure I hit as much as I can. Faith and beliefs. Mental for me. So you said, no, I mean any time. Do you have a silent mind between questions? In my life, I give myself a total of about 80 minutes a day of complete silence. I wake up and I sit in love for 40 minutes. And before I go to bed, I sit in love for 40 minutes. And people say, that's excessive, right? And the reason I do that is because that's for me. That's me loving myself enough. And in loving myself and giving myself that time, my life smooths out because I do give myself that time. And so to me, it's very, very important to realize that if you're part of the oneness of God, you are as equal of that love as anybody else, as deserving of that love as anybody else. So you have to give yourself love equally. And there's a statement by Nietzsche. He talks about relationships. He's like, if you want to have a truly loving relationship, you have to foster the friendship. Well, you have to foster the friendship with yourself as well. Treat yourself well, because most of us will talk worse about ourselves than we will about anybody else. And we won't let anybody else talk bad about anybody else, but we'll talk bad about ourselves to ourselves all the time. And you have to realize that you're pretty spectacular. You're pretty wonderful because you're part of God. And you are an embodiment of love. And it's a matter of you stepping into that divinity of that embodiment of love and really realizing it. Let's see. Duran, your question about Matthew. Joshua, everybody likes to make him out to be some sort of prophet, meaning in the form of prophecy. Joshua's whole teaching was all about being here now. He actually said in the Bible somewhere, it says, "Think not upon tomorrow," and so his idea of the fall of the Jewish temple is stated in Matthew. Now let's talk about Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Those three books, according to theologians and Bible scholars, they think they're all written from one original source, and so those books have a lot of questions as to their validity. But I don't think Joshua really was really into anybody falling. He was into everybody being lifted up. And I hope that answers your question. And thank you, Danielle. Let's see. So, first of all, Deb, I'm so sorry about your son. That's my cousin Carlos committed suicide, and I'm very blessed in the fact that he came back to me to deliver a message to his mother. And I was sleeping in a room in my mom's house, and it was a room where it was an inner room, so there wasn't any real windows in that room, but it was pitch black during the day. And Carlos appeared before me in aura form. Whenever I say aura form, it's like a light in the shape of a form. I don't really see the full apparition as the person, but I see it and I feel it and I know. And in this moment, I knew it was him. And he literally asked me to tell his mother he was in a better place, and specifically that being here was painful. Being here was harmful. And he has none of those pains and none of those harms being done to him. And, he's so happy to be on the other side because he understands, and it was part of his lesson to feel that pain, to feel that anxiety, to feel that stress, and to have it go all the way to the eventual end that it came to. That was part of him learning. And he wanted me to tell his mom that he's in a better place because his mom was in a bad place because of the suicide. And so I found myself the next morning in my mom's house, and my mom was at church playing the organ. My dad was on a golf course somewhere. My brother was upstairs sleeping, and my aunt was sitting in the kitchen. So I got up and I went into the kitchen and I sat down. Now, understand, we come from a Catholic family, so now I'm about to talk about her dead son coming to visit me. How do you breach that topic? I say to her, "So do you believe in auras?" And we got into it. She went into a deep conversation about her belief in metaphysical things because her time in Peru that she had experienced some things. And I said, the reason I'm telling you the story is because I saw Carlos last night. And she said, "Is he in a better place?" And then I got a chance to tell her all that he said. Carlos came back because he didn't want his mom to be in a bad place. He wanted her to understand that his being here and going through that was a time of trauma, and that trauma helped him understand love more fully on the other side. But the time of trauma that she was having was the loss of his love, because that's why we're here. We're here to experience the lack of love. And understand, you're probably here tonight to have this message brought to you, to tell you that he's in a better place. And he's experiencing the most unconditional love that anyone can ever experience. And he wants you to be happy for him that he is there, rather than focusing on that small little tragic event at the end of his life. because his whole life is the person you love. And that piece at the end where he took his life is not, it can be an anchor on your life if you allow it to hold you there. But he doesn't want you to hold it there. He wants you to move it on and move into that space of understanding that he is the loving essence that he is now. He's not the tragic end. I hope that does for you and does something good for you in this conversation. And I'm so sorry that you've gone through that. That's a very hard thing to go through, especially for a parent. Rave, I'm glad you had a good experience with the Course in Miracles. That's lovely. Not well. The question is, have you assisted anyone to cross over when they're physically dying? I have not. I have talked to people who were close and were holding on for the sake of others, and I was one of the others that they were holding on for. And I was like, Mom, if you have the chance, go, because if anyone's going to meet Jesus, it's going to be you. But yeah, I've had conversations that alleviated some stresses of leaving, but I haven't had one where they actually were dying. I love that this group is sending love to Deb, because that is beautiful. Which question did I skip? There's a lot on this page in front of me. Where's my question? Can you put your question in again so I can see it? Well, thank you, Larry. That's lovely. Reason I skipped my question. Coleman, Ian. I'm going to see if I can go back and find this question. Why do bad things happen to good people, like death of a child, murder of loved ones, severe illness, etc.? All people are good, and bad things happen to all people. And bad things are part of that process of experiencing the lack of love in some form. And we are here to experience the lack of love in some form. But the concept of good or bad or good and evil is it's a medieval construct that was put upon spirituality. And it really is, there aren't good people and there aren't bad people. There are just people, and people do things out of fears and anxieties. And the people who are doing bad or evil things are doing so out of their own fears or anxieties of not having love in some form. And so they're replacing that with power. Some, people who abuse people are doing that because for the power trip, for the adrenaline rush. People who abuse alcohol or cigarettes or drugs are doing so because it makes them feel better, because they're not feeling the love. And so they're grabbing for anything that makes them feel better. And so the concept of why does bad things happen to good people? Things happen to all people. And sometimes good people have this, good people do have manifestations that are coming into their life from various things. A lot of people are very good people are afraid of certain things, and those fears are focused on outcomes, and those fears are creating things. Now, like for instance, say you're a nice person who's living through life, and you go walking down dark alleys in the middle of a dangerous city. That was a choice, right? And so that happens. And it can also happen on the smaller level. Like you can have a fear of not having any money, but the focus on not having money is going to have you not have money. You have a fear of driving, and you have an accident because you're afraid of driving. So driving gives you things to be fearful for. They're good people too, right? They're not bad people for these things happening. but they have concepts. I got to get home quick, and the focus on not getting there fast enough will create a delay. It's that belief system that is creating the experience. I hope that answers your question. And I'm sorry I missed it. It was sandwiched in between two super chats, so I kind of got blinded by the super chats. It's a beautiful group of souls here, isn't it? Aren't they just beautiful? It's a lovely group that we have here tonight, and I'm thoroughly enjoying the experience. But let's do one or two more questions, and then we'll wind this thing down. And thank you all for coming tonight. And I will let you know when the next one is. I'm gonna talk to Kim about whether she's going to stay on her schedule of every other week, and if she is, I will probably do the off weeks for her. Super chat is underneath the chat. There's a dollar sign. It's a chance. It's a way to donate if you're interested in donating. Now I will tell you this that just because I think everyone needs to be aware, when you super chat, YouTube takes 30% of that. And if you want to avoid that, and I'm not here begging for money, so please, that's not what this is about. But if you want to avoid giving YouTube 30% of that, in my description box is a PayPal donation box. I'll do the same thing. So, any more questions? I'm going to wave pink hands at you too. I believe there's always a silver lining. Absolutely, there's always a silver lining. And the silver lining is interestingly enough, a choice. If you can choose the silver lining, because you are the pinpoint of creation. You are the person who is deciding whether it's good or bad. And as Shakespeare said, there is nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so. More pink hands, more pink hands. What is that? Water. Drink your water. There you go. Love you all and all who are here. Beautiful. Well, my friends, it looks like we don't have any more questions, so I'm going to wind this